There are lots and lots of areas where you need to have knowledge in to be a cybersecurity person. We're looking at oversight and operations. So what sort of governance and compliance do you have to have? In our case, we have, oh, gosh, I can't remember, FERPA. We have something else that we have to comply with, like a general business thing. But there's lots of compliance protocols and outlines and things out there. Hospitals have to comply with HIPAA. So how do we operate more automatically, orchestrate, and how do we threat hunt? How do we use AI now? Well, there's a discussion in this one. How is AI used in cybersecurity? It's time to find out because AI is here. So oversight is usually linked to administration because it's governance and compliance. Your business has to comply with whatever acronym that you have to comply with, like Sarbanes-Oxley or general accounting something is what we have to do, something else like that. So you want to have structures, systems, practices in place to assign things, to oversee, to report. This is a continuous cycle of keeping track of everything that's going on. Documentation, writing reports. So we have to have information about accountability. How do we set the tone for the organization's personnel to embrace good governance practices? Does that come from the cybersecurity person? It can, but it's hard for someone that's not at the head of the organization to really set a tone. This is where cybersecurity people have to work with others, administration. People skills are very important. You have to act in a way with integrity. You have to be your word. You have to have high standards. You are a steward of the resources, and you want to be transparent. If you make a mistake, say, yep, I made a mistake. Let's see how we can fix it. Nothing wrong with that. So governance bodies can be internal or external. So we're going to move on past this. In our case, we have regulatory agencies. We have to comply with regulatory industries. So we're going to move past that. Here we go. So do we have a data privacy officer? That's a good question. That's a person who oversees data privacy compliance and manages data risk. In a big organization, you would have somebody like that. If you're a one-person shop, you have to do all of these. So custodian is the person who is responsible for the data and responsible for the records and sets security policies. And the person responsible for the information, who would that be? Well, it's not going to be the cybersecurity person. You're not the owner, but you could be the custodian or the steward. Are you the principal party for collecting the data? Maybe not. Maybe that's somebody else, but you need to keep track of all this and how it works. Oh, here we go. Let's bring this little picture a little bigger. Okay, the end user puts in information. They authenticate. This can only be read by department managers. The privacy officer determines who does this. The custodian, which is maybe the cybersecurity person, reviews the settings. Are you responsible for deciding who can access stuff? No. That is a governance issue, and it depends on your organization. So a policy outlines specific requirements and rules. Acceptable use is very common policy. What can you do that's acceptable to our organization? And there's lots of others. I have a list that we're using with our semester projects. And if you don't know what a software development lifecycle policy is, well, that's not as big a deal as it used to be because we are in the day of agile development. So changes happen very quickly. Procedure is what you do. A policy is why and what's supposed to be done. This is a step-by-step of what you're supposed to do. A procedure is very important. Procedure is not a policy. A policy is not a procedure. Our playbook is like a procedure for what if something happens. So if we have an incident, if we have a computer infected with malware, what do? We should have a step-by-steps what we should do if that happens. So a procedure might be employee onboarding. Would we as cybersecurity people take part in all of it? No, but we have our part to play. Assigning passwords, training on the system, how to change your password, what the policies are. There's all sorts of stuff that's our responsibility, and we would work with HR. And the same thing would happen with offboarding. We'd work with HR and whoever to make sure that the account is locked, that everything is cleared away, this person has left the building, and they no longer have access to our secret materials or our stuff. So a standard defines the specific technologies that are agreed on for secure configurations. There's lots of frameworks is another term for this. So there's different standards that you participate in, like TCP/IP is a standard. Everybody agrees that's how we communicate through networks, so it works. And there's lots of standards in IT. So a guideline provides general guidance and support for policies. It's voluntary, while the others are mandatory. A guideline says this is what you should probably be doing. Compliance. We want to make sure that we comply with any state, federal, and other regulatory body laws. And you'll need to research that depending on the industry you're in. It's going to be different for a bank. It's going to be different for the military. It's going to be different for a hospital. It's going to be different for an educational institution. So it all depends. So we want to make sure that all of this is happening. You can do internal compliance monitoring. You can also have an external audit. Like we have an external audit once a year. Someone comes in and looks at everything and finds things that we may have missed at WNCC, and then they give us a laundry list of things that they suggest that we should change. And that's what we work on, is changing those things. So there are such a thing as automated compliance tools. I've never seen one, never worked with anybody that's big enough to have this sort of thing. This is like big company kind of stuff here, enterprise stuff. So you usually do this monitoring and compliance auditing on Word documents, all of that sort of thing. Let's keep going through this because that's enough of that part. What's a SOC? A SOC is a security operations center. So they're responsible for, there's also a NOC too. You know what a NOC is? Oh, you're right, Network Operations Center. Isn't that a cool term? Makes you feel like you're in a special group. Okay, so a SOC team are responsible for multiple tasks: monitoring, incident response, remediation, activities, compliance, coordination. So it's a center. Well, our center is one person, so we don't have much of a center. But we're not that big either. Like Allo, they have a SOC and a NOC because they have enough people and they have enough security things that they need to have more than one person. So information security is becoming much more automated, especially with AI coming into the place so that computers can make more informed decisions. So one of the things that automation does is produces time efficiency. One person can do more. It can also automate things that you might forget to do. It can improve staff retention because you're not doing all the boring things that the automation can do for you. And the last one is really, it gives you more time to be more productive and not react as much as be proactive. That's what we want to be in. We want to be in the area of being proactive and planning and trying to make sure things don't happen rather than reacting to what has happened. We're going to go past this because we're getting kind of high end for this kind of a class. Just know that there is automation in there. Orchestration means that we're connecting all of these various automation pieces together. So it's like an orchestra built of 100 players with different instruments. They all get coordinated so that you have maybe a one place where you see everything, like a dashboard, for example. In a bigger company, you're going to have things like this. And let's see, threat hunting. Oh, that's not one I've read about before. Huh. So threat hunting means that you're kind of like a penetration tester, but you're trying to find bad things. This would be like companies that find areas that do things. So you select an attack model. Yeah, this is like penetration testing stuff here. AI is really good at taking data and trying to get some meaning out of it. It is also good at learning your network, like many of the newer network monitoring tools learn what your network normally does. And if something goes outside that, it'll send an alert saying, this looks suspicious. Take a look at this. So it makes what we have currently more intelligent. So we have assisted, augmented, and autonomous. So ChatGPT improves what we are already doing. I can already do that stuff. I can do it faster with ChatGPT and all other sorts of AIs. Augmented intelligence, I don't know that we really have access to those tools. I'd have to think about that for a minute. Organization to do things they could not do otherwise. And features that act entirely on their own. Okay, so when we do our robot class, Intro to Robotics, and we set it out on its obstacle avoidance thing, is that autonomous? Yeah, it pretty much is. It does crash and burn once in a while when the sensor doesn't work right, but it's an entire feedback loop inside the system. So autonomous is great, but also it does need human oversight because autonomous can sometimes crash into a desk, like our MBOTs do, because it's just out of range of the little ultrasonic sensor. Well, things are changing, and this is probably already behind because it's not called Microsoft 365 Copilot. It is called just Copilot. It's been released in GitHub. I like the one that goes along with VS Code. It works really well. We're going to see change upon change upon change upon change because the AI technology is moving so fast it is really difficult to keep up. However, you want to keep up. The jobs of the jobs of today belong to the people who know what they're doing and can do it faster with the tools that they have at their disposal. And the tools we have at our disposal right now is AI. So the combination of knowing what you're doing and being able to increase your effectiveness with AI, that's a duo that'll win. The other side of that is, of course, AI can help the bad threat actors do their job better. So it's just always a war of attrition. All you can do is run faster than the guy next to you. Really, that's what cybersecurity is about. And there are some other things in here about, things that can happen. AI can generate too many positives. It can be hard to tune it. That is all going to change over time. Well, that's kind of a brief summary of some of the maybe not as much fun things with cybersecurity, but administration, compliance, oversight. I have a friend who works for State of Utah Medicaid, and that is her job, is doing all this oversight operations. Of course, it's a state of Utah. It's a big organization. So her entire job is compliance and oversight and operations. Regardless, we will see you next week.